Good morning, poetry lovers. This is Jim Ransom with another episode of Morning Jim. Today's program is going to be titled Transitions. Now, I thought of this title some time ago when the weather was a little warmer and the robins were dancing about on the lawn. You'll be happy to know, I guess, that it's not about turning women into men or vice versa, and it's not about those eyeglasses that change color. No, this is about the halting transition we see each year between winter and spring. It's often done frowningly and unwillingly by a retreating winter, and this year is a good example. Believe it or not, we had 6 to 8 inches of snow. I'm not quite sure what the official total is yet last night. Wet snow clinging to the hemlocks and pines all around us with their branches hanging down, sort of like a winter waterfall. And March is aptly named for the old Roman god of war, and that's what we're having. A war between winter and spring. I found some poems about this and wrote one myself. So to set the mood, here is our first offering. It's a poem by Elizabeth Spires called Ocean City, Early March. And I know most of you understand that Ocean City is a famous East Coast resort, primarily for summertime enjoyment. So this is Ocean City, Early March by Elizabeth Spires. Along Ocean Highway, apartments rise up to 10 or 20 stories, white, hallucinatory, defying the shifting sand, the storm moving in and off the Atlantic that drives the rain needle-like across the windshield so that we can't see, so that we stop in Ocean City to wait the storm out at the Dutch. The only bar on the boardwalk open this time of year. All the concessions boarded up, weather-beaten, closed against the season. Last summer, in violet light, kites spiraled downward in loops, then up, dragons and birds flying high above the boardwalk. Ocean City, haven of the lost and aimless, with a 10-foot sand sculpture of Christ illuminated by neon lights. People on their way to Ripley's Believe It or Not looked down in apathy, then wandered off, their children begging for another ride on the Avalanche or Safari. Out, far out on the end of the pier, silhouetted against gray sky, gray water, morbid manor rose up, gothic and dreamy, as children ran screaming from the exit door, chased by a ghost with a chainsaw. One child ignored it all. She lay with her face pressed close to a knothole in the pier, looking down to the boiling black water. "What do you see?" I asked. But she didn't move or answer me. Long, narrow, and dark, the Dutch, with its shifting clientele. From summer weekend pickups to Ocean City regulars allows for strangers. We ordered Irish coffee, then 2 more, and use our change to play an arcade game. Aliens, half an inch high in green armor, drop out of a glowing sky and quickly multiply. Our backs to the storm, we play out old anxieties, losing each game to time and starting over. We must save what's being threatened and not ask why. Um, I wonder if this applies to Ukraine. But that's irrelevant, isn't it? Maybe not. Next is a poem that I wrote just recently, before the current storm, but when we had flocks of robins flying in from the south. And this poem is called Winter Leaves Us, don't we hope? Unwillingly, to be sure, driven out yesterday by a flock of robins who pull large earthworms out of our garden, proving they will not die here in March. The next day a cold front hits again. Our fleeces on, hats and caps. Even so, our ears turned red on the walk. It is another day for hot coffee, hot chocolate. A warm front is said to be coming. It might be 65 tomorrow, and fleeces will be off. Sunshine will mark the day. With a frosty in hand, we will go for a walk and watch the sky. The robins know. They skim proudly across the lawns, heads held high. Winter retreats unwillingly, like an unfulfilled promise. Well, I think that's pretty clear and doesn't need any explanation. Those are the kinds of poems I like best, the ones that are pretty clear. Here's one that I like quite a bit because it demonstrates some aspects of poetry that we don't hear very often anymore, and that is the anapestic rhythm. And this is called Winter Pond, and the epigram under the title is Lake Paven. Lake Paven is about a 35-acre lake that's open only seasonally. It's in Vermont, I think. And so it would be generally pretty cold there still at this time of the year. I stand in the march of my mind in a winter perspective, suds, scurf, and cobble, a sherbet of blackening ice, with a pylon inset on a lunar enormity, and beyond it a tractor in characterless orange, the lake like an adamant, drawing into the flint and the salt, all a planet's mobility, algae and perch, the gelatinous hives of the frog, night crawlers, the seaman and freeze of a winter, until all locks like a cluster of crystal, lifts up in its basin in its perfect containment, a monolith crowding the shale, a troglodyte's hammer pounding the weathers and pressing an obdurate matter like the light on the pomegranate's rind or the bones on the scales of a carp. The seasons disclaim us, but a shock lives on in the air, a pulse like a forge in a cloud that beats on the latent and makes the ambiguous bearable. Facet by facet we assemble a vanished relation, the summer under the ice and the skater on water, harden the edge of our world till our images name us, and the possible touches the heart and declares what it saw, an ice flow that burned in the thaw, the hailstone's precipitation, that opened a well for the noon of the fish in the flycaster, set a bow on the ripple, recovered the spinner's vibration, till all was motion and passion and presence, flashing as never before. Did you notice anything about the meter or rhythm of this poem? It is written in what the technicians of poetry, and we have a lot of them, call anapestic meter. Anapestic. An anapest is a rhythm in which two unstressed syllables are followed by a stressed syllable or word. Da-da-da, da-da-da. It forces us to move forward rapidly in the story. The ice is rotting, and at the end the fishing is restarting, as well as the swimmers returning. It is all happening rapidly. Let me read from the poem again so you get the notion. The hailstone's precipitation that opened a well for the noon of the fish and the flycaster set a bow on a ripple, recovered the spinner's vibration, till all was motion and passion, and presence flashing as never before. Incidentally, there's a lot of rhyme in this poem, too, which you may not have noticed. And the possible touches the heart and declares what it saw, an ice floe that burned in the thaw. The rhymes come every few lines, and they're a little hard to see sometimes. But this poem, incidentally, was written by a fellow named Belitt, of whom I know nothing. But he was publishing his poetry some time ago in The New Yorker, which is a good recommendation most of the time. And I found it in the huge volume called Collected Poems from the New Yorker between 1945 and 1969. So there's thousands of poems there, and they're easy to collect by subject matter, sort of, because they're arranged in alphabetical order according to the title of the poem, not the poet's name. Okay. Finally, here is a poem explaining that bad weather can come in April. It's called April Snow by Matthew Zapruder. And it's warning us that what I'm looking out on today from my window may not be the end of it. April Snow by Matthew Zapruder. Today in El Paso, all the planes are asleep on the runway. The world is in a delay. All the political consultants, drinking whiskey, keep their heads down, lifting them only to look at the beautiful scarred waitress who wears typewriter keys as a necklace. They jingle when she brings them drinks. Outside the giant plate glass windows, the planes are completely covered in snow. It piles up on the wings. I feel like a mountain of cell phone chargers. Each of the various faiths of our various fathers keeps us only partly protected. I don't want to talk on the phone to an angel. At night before I go to sleep, I am already dreaming of coffee, of ancient generals, of the faces of statues, each of which has the eternal expression of one of my feelings. I examine my feelings without feeling anything. I ride my blue bike on the edge of the desert. I am president of this glass of water. Matthew Zapruder is an academic poet. You might have been able to tell that. But that's a very good poem. And it's also the end of our poetry reading for today. I hope that we can drive off winter as quickly as we went through these poems, but don't count on it. I'll return in a week. Be there.